True freshman quarterback Faizon Brandon had the better scrimmage on Saturday. What that means for Tennessee in this quarterback competition.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday morning. Welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols. I am your host, Cain, and I appreciate you guys for being here. Today's episode is presented by the great people over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Join all the action at FanDuel and play at FanDuel.com and play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a home run this MLB season. That is daily dingers over at FanDuel Sportsbook. What I'm watching for the final week of fall camp, that's coming up in segment number 3. So you've technically had a week and a half, by the actual calendar, but it's like 2 weeks of fall camp in the books. This is a full-fledged fall camp football week. And then next Monday, you move into mock game week, which will be a little bit different. So what I need to see from Tennessee in this final true week of fall camp, that's coming up in segment number 3, how Tennessee plans to replace Edrees Farooq at safety, who is unfortunately gone for the season with a knee injury. That's coming up in segment number 2. But is Faizon Brandon separating from George MacIntyre in this quarterback competition? Remember, you go all the way back in spring ball, and when they kind of started day number 1, it was George MacIntyre that was, ahead simply because he had been here. He knew the system, he knew the coaches, he knew the expectations and all that. And it was Faizon Brandon that had pulled even with him by the end of spring, and the guy that had all the buzz throughout the offseason, right? And then you start spring ball, and I don't think Faizon Brandon's been bad, but George MacIntyre had a very strong start to fall camp and has done a lot of good things. And George MacIntyre did a lot of good things in the scrimmage on Saturday from what I've been told. But I've also been told, and I'm sure, other, reports out there, and you kind of read it and everything, that, Faizon Brandon was more impressive. Faizon Brandon outplayed him in the first scrimmage, if you will. Now, it doesn't mean, again, that George was bad. It doesn't mean, again, that Faizon's won the job, but Faizon Brandon had the better day from everybody that I've spoken to. So does this mean that Faizon Brandon is separating from George MacIntyre in this quarterback competition? It could. How do you respond from here? If you're Faizon Brandon, do you take the positive performance from Saturday, what you did positively? And again, it wasn't like he was perfect. Okay, there were still some mistakes in there. But you take what you did and the positives from Saturday, and you just take control of this quarterback competition this week, go out there and perform well again on next Saturday in scrimmage number 2, and then make it, that's all she wrote. Do you pedal to the metal, go and just grab it this week? I'm sure there's an opportunity for that if you're the true freshman Faizon Brandon. If you're George MacIntyre, knowing you've had a good fall camp, you're throwing the football extremely well. And it's not like you had a bad scrimmage the other day. Again, from what I've been told, there was a lot of drops. There were some drops during the scrimmage, and the majority of those drops came with George MacIntyre was the quarterback, right? George MacIntyre threw an interception, but as you saw the video that Tennessee football tweeted out there, the highlight reel of the scrimmage, you didn't see who threw the football in the scrimmage. It was George. Or threw the football in that play. It was George. But you saw an acrobatic, incredible play by Arion Carter with the interception. That's more Arion Carter than it is George MacIntyre, in my opinion. The acrobatic catch tip drill was really, really impressive. So again, it's not like George was bad from those who I've spoken with that were in attendance for the scrimmage. Media's not allowed in there. But Faizon outplayed you. Faizon had the better day. So if you're George, how do you respond to this week? Do you attack every single day in practice and continue to be super consistent, continuing to make all the right throws, get a little bit quicker in terms of getting rid of the football? I think that's something I've heard about George throughout camp, is he's making good decisions overall. He's throwing the football, making great throws, but he's holding on to the football too long. Can you expedite that a little bit this week, right? And can you go in there and really dominate and go in there and put your best foot forward in scrimmage number 2 and be the better quarterback in that scrimmage? We'll see. This week's all about response, in my opinion. Faizon Brandon had some good plays, certainly did a lot of good things in the scrimmage. Probably, based on anybody you speak to, probably is the one that says, okay, he had the better day, he was better. That's how it was told to me. George did some good things. George also had some unluckiness tied to him, if you will. It's all about response. Faizon, can you go grab it this week? George, Can you respond the right way and go win scrimmage number 2 on Saturday? I'm excited to see what that looks like. So, yeah, Faizon Brandon could create some separation in this quarterback battle, could create some distance in this quarterback battle this week if he goes and attacks every single day and, pedal to the metal, just go grab it. And I'm intrigued to kind of see what that looks like this week for sure. If you missed a lot of my talk on the scrimmage, I posted an episode for Saturday afternoon and kind of detailed what I was hearing and how the scrimmage went down and everything. I encourage you to go back and check that out in your podcast feeds. And, of course, here on YouTube. I'll carry a lot of that over here in this segment in a moment. I'll carry some more about Edrees Farooq. I did an episode on him. I think it was on Sunday. Of course, Edrees suffered an injury in practice on Friday morning and is gone for the season, and that's just horrible. I'll carry some of that over here in segment number 2, but go back and check all those out if you want to. Had a couple bonus shows out this weekend. But here's Josh Heupel. We're going to hear a couple things from Josh Heupel post-scrimmage on how the quarterbacks played, and with it being Faizon Brandon, George MacIntyre. He's not going to go in-depth on who played better or anything like that, but this is what Josh Heupel had to say about the quarterbacks.
Today, couple communication, just handling some things early in the scrimmage that I think we can improve upon. I thought as the scrimmage went on, both played at a really high level, made some plays down the field, worked through their progressions. We worked 4 minutes today, some things we can learn in that. All in all, a positive day. Both of those guys have had good training camps. In general, they've taken really good care of the football. They've continued to grow and master in what we're doing and the control and command that you have to have at the quarterback position. But for both of them, just like our football team, there's a lot of growth to be ready to go play week 1.
Yeah, and again, I see the YouTube comments over the weekend and everything, like because I go in there and look for some questions and try to answer some questions. Media, we're locked out. We don't get to see the scrimmage, okay? We don't get stats. It's not like Bud Ford's up there handing out a PDF stat sheet and telling us how George MacIntyre did and how Faizon Brandon did. That, this is in 1990s, okay? We don't get any of that. Like, based on what we're bringing to these shows or what we're bringing to websites or whatever is based on sources, what we're being told, okay? Because we're not there. It's unfortunate. I mean, heck, I'd love to be there, right? I'm just like any of you guys. I'd love to be there watching it. This is on what we have been told, and of course, taking what Josh Heupel said post scrimmage and kind of throwing it all together here for you. Was told that Faizon hit on a couple of deep balls down the field, and the vertical passing attack, I think, is a strength from both these guys. I think these guys throw really good deep balls, but we know it's vital in this Josh Heupel system. You got to be able to stretch the defense. Joey Aguilar did that very well. Milton had the potential to do that, but really no one stretched the defense the way it needed to since Hendon Hooker prior to Joey Aguilar last year. And so I think, seeing that and hearing that Faizon Brandon completed a couple of deep balls, that's what you like to hear. Now, again, what was his completion percentage on short to intermediate? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I heard that he did complete a couple of deep balls, which is enough to get anybody excited, right? So we'll see kind of where this quarterback competition goes. Again, it's not done. It's not over. Nobody's won the job. But based on everybody I've spoken to, Faizon Brandon had the better day on Saturday. Can he go win it this week? We'll see. Can George win the scrimmage number 2 and make things really interesting in terms of a timeline of naming a starting quarterback? Now, both quarterbacks play against Furman because both players better play against Furman. We will just have to see, of course. Big week coming up for the quarterbacks. Josh Heupel calls this a quarterback's best friend. The old football adage, we know what a quarterback's best friend is, and that position group has been really, really good for Tennessee in fall camp. It's going to be an absolute strength for Tennessee this year.
Bake, Gordon, Dejuan, all of them are playing, competing at a really high level. When you have real competition in your position room, it's the best friend you have as a coach. And you can see those guys, they feel the urgency of taking advantage of every rep and every single day. And that room is collectively as a group is playing really good football right now.
Heard Tennessee ran the football so well in the scrimmage, and that's great. That means you love the competition behind Deshaun Bishop. He didn't even mention Deshaun Bishop, but we know what Deshaun can do. Between Javen Gordon, Dejuan Morris, who had a long touchdown run. I heard Gordon played very well. Baker is the forgotten man. I think he could play at other places that he's just kind of buried on the depth chart. Tennessee ran the football well, which means the offensive line blocked well in the run game, okay? So that's what you want to hear. No surprises there. The catch-22 is, at points in times, I don't think the rush defense was very good. And I don't know what Jim Knowles was doing. I don't know if he was dialing it up. I don't know if he was being super methodical in terms of play calls and pressures and run blitzes and stuff. I don't know. I don't think, based on what I've heard, I don't think that he was super vanilla. Like, I think that they did some things, but also like with the Dejuan Morris, long touchdown run of, you can saw it on the highlight reel. I don't think Tennessee's quote unquote starting defense was in, you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not there. I can't tell you. I didn't see, but I did hear that the rush defense was not good enough in this scrimmage. So it's a catch-22, right? Is that more where the defense doesn't need to be? Like they got to get better, or does that just mean Tennessee's offensive ground attack is just really, really good? We'll have to see. That's the beautiful thing about training camp. We don't know. I don't know. Here's Josh Heupel on the trenches, offensive line and defensive line.
Some real positives. Defensive line applying some pressure to the quarterback, in particular early in the scrimmage. Offensive line, I thought the run game grew throughout the scrimmage. Getting everybody on the same page, all 11 on a unit. 4 guys defensive line operating as one. That's in defending the run game and affecting the quarterback, and then offensively, obviously, all 5 and your tight ends and backs. You're at the stage in the part of the journey of training camp that you got to push, you got to compete, you got to grow, you got to take advantage of every rep. There's a lot left out there for us at this point. Always is. We just got to continue to work and compete and grow.
Josh Heupel on the offensive and defensive lines did hear that. I think he said it there. Defensive line early in the scrimmage were putting pressure on the quarterbacks, which is good, what you want to hear. But again, I think Tennessee busted a couple of runs. The biggest one being Dejuan Morris, like 90-plus yard, a 95-plus yard, whatever it was, touchdown run that you saw in that clip that Tennessee posted on social media. Anyway, we'll continue to carry the conversation over. I know a lot of you guys are listening or watching, didn't check out the Saturday show, so go back and check that out if you want to. But I'm going to continue talking about the scrimmage coming up here in a second. Plus, how does Tennessee plan to replace Edrees Farooq at safety? All that and more is coming up next. We continue on here. It's your Monday Locked On Vols. Stay tuned in. We got more coming up next. If you got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. And that's why Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shot brings the nostalgic flavors back in a whole new way. This is that classic cotton candy that taste, if you will, that you all remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost with zero sugar. It's quick, it's easy. It's an easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always loved that cotton candy, but I can't keep eating sweets all day long, right? This is that perfect alternative. The flavor really does bring back that throwback fruity vanilla vibe. It's all surprisingly smooth. I like how convenient it is as well. Just small, portable. I can, shot that I can grab whenever I need to, and it's a little bit of a pick-me-up in the afternoon when I'm going on the radio at 3 o'clock every afternoon. It's become my go-to when I want something sweet without going overboard. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shots, available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. That's 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. All right, we're continuing here. This is your Monday morning Locked On Vols, looking back at Saturday's scrimmage and kind of bringing to the table everything that we've heard, we've talked about, everything that's been reported out there. Sounds like the offense had a pretty good day. Okay, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I think defense had some moments. I think defense gave up some things as well, and part of that, I believe, is with the injury to Edrees Farooq. We'll get into that here in just one moment. I do want to quickly play what he had to say about wide receiver number 3. Heard that Mike Matthews had a really strong scrimmage. Heard that Tyreek King had a strong scrimmage. Didn't hear an awful lot about Redarius Jackson, Travis Smith, or TK Keys. But Josh Heupel kind of talks about how he wants that person to emerge, and really it's not just about the one person; it's about the whole room collectively at the wide receiver position.
Want to see one guy, but really all of them. We're going to need them all through the course of the season. Just continue to grow and. Their approach, mindset every day, consistency in what we're doing out there, fundamentals and technique, understanding zone man principles, being on the right spot at the right time, and continuing to be a consistent playmaker. So there's some growth that we need from the entire wide receiver position, but some of those young guys that got to be ready to play too.
And then something I've always wondered about these scrimmages, because again, we're not there to see for ourselves. How much tackling are they actually doing? Because again, and I mentioned this in the show on Saturday, typically your defense is ahead of your offense early in training camp. That's just kind of how it is, right? Defense is reactionary, while offense, you're legit running a play. And yes, you're running plays defensively. I'm not acting like you're not, but defensively, you are reacting, okay? But now with teams and leagues, and I mean, you're just not tackling to the ground like you used to, right? And so when you get put into a live football situation, sometimes you're tackling, even though you're repping and going through tackling drills and turnover circuits and all that, you're not going to the ground. You can be sloppy at times. So I'm not sure how that old adage that your defense is ahead of your offense early in fall camp, I'm not sure that holds up much anymore, because again, you're just not doing enough tackling. So I'm always curious how much tackling they do in these scrimmages. Josh Heupel said, you'll hear it here in just literally a couple of seconds, they did plenty of tackling, but which groups did the tackling? I'm not so sure. Clearly you weren't tackling the quarterback. I would imagine you weren't hitting Deshaun Bishop very hard. You know what I'm saying? So how much tackling was done in the scrimmage on Saturday? Josh Heupel said there was plenty. There was plenty going around in terms of tackling.
I did. Over 50% of it was tackling throughout the course of the day. Some good work. We've done a bunch of tackling, during the course of our practices too. We got to continue to refine those skills. Our eyes, our pad level. I think we've taken real steps as a program. From where we started in spring to where we are now. Got 3 more weeks where we got to continue to improve before we get ready for week 1.
All right, so Josh Heupel said there was plenty of tackling done in the scrimmage. Okay, so Edrees Farooq, super sad, hate it for him. He's going to be gone for the season. Obviously, suffered an injury Friday morning during practice. I specifically was over there covering practice, but they kick us out after the 15 or 20-minute viewing period, whatever it is. And so I was off campus by the time I got a text from somebody who was actually on campus. Because, again, you've got – it was VFL Day a couple days ago. I think Friday it was First Horizon Day. So, I mean, there's people at practice all the time. And I just so happened to know someone who was at practice, and they texted me and said, hey, man, Edrees Farooq down holding his knee. This does not look good. And I'm like, whew, that's not good. And you make some calls, you make some, shoot some texts and everything. And then, of course, a Tennessee representative came and told the media, hey, suffered a lower body injury. He's taken to UT Medical for further examination. That's all we got right now. And it's oh man, it's never good, right? You don't want to speculate, but it's never good. And then, Saturday morning, Tennessee releases a statement on safety Edrees Farooq saying, quote, Tennessee junior safety Edrees Farooq suffered a season-ending torn patellar tendon in his right knee at practice Friday morning. We stand with Edrees. We support him as he begins the recovery process. We know that he'll continue to make a strong leadership impact on our team this fall. It's devastating. You never want to hear of season-ending injuries for anybody. I don't care who you are, if you're a starter, if you're a role player, whatever. Edrees Farooq was going to be Tennessee's starting safety. He started 13 games last year for Tennessee football and was having an outstanding offseason, both spring and fall camps. This is now the 3rd season-ending injury that Tennessee's had this summer. I say this summer because 2 in fall camp and 1 that actually happened before fall camp. That was Davis Richard, the transfer cornerback from Miami. Jaden Harmon, a reserve linebacker early in fall camp, and now the latest being Edrees Farooq. This is what Josh Heupel had to say about the injury to Farooq and others.
Yeah, I hate it for Edrees. I hate it for Jaden. 2 plays that, not heavy contact either. Just unique body positions and, ultimately, have real injuries. And hate it for both of them because they're both great teammates. They've both had a great off seasons. Guys that have invested in the growth of understanding the game, their position, their bodies. It's also why I know, through this rehab process, they're going to handle it like pros and come out the other side. And they got great futures ahead of them.
So does that change anything in the back end? I mean, you are losing a safety, a starting safety in Edrees Farooq, and I'll get into what now. Coming up here after we listen to Josh Heupel one more time. But does it change anything from an exotic look, from what you're able to do from a schematic standpoint? Here's Josh Heupel answering that question.
Yeah, everybody hurts. Coaches, players, everybody in your program. When you see somebody have a real injury like that, and at the same time, I thought they responded extremely well. Back half of practice yesterday and today, this opportunity, getting ready to go compete. Affects the depth. I don't think it will affect the creativity of what we're able to do.
And it certainly affects the depth because you were feeling pretty good about 4 safeties strong, and now you lose one that's 3. I'll get into the backup options here in a moment, but you were feeling really good about your, really your 4 corners, and then you lose one in Jadaeus Richard. And again, he was slated to be the 4th corner, so the second backup, if you will. But again, he's an older guy, and he's played a ton of football, so you lose him. You lose a starting safety. The secondary, I still like the frontline starters, but the secondary truly is taking some depth hits, in my opinion. What's now? What's next? Who's up next, right? Well, Tennessee was already brought in Dejuan Lane coming over from Penn State. Okay, he was going to play safety anyway. I mean, TJ Metcalf, Edrees Farooq, and Dejuan Lane were going to play safety. Lane was going to be the backup, but he was going to play a ton, right? And plus three safety looks as well he would have played. Big thing about Lane is he followed Anthony Poindexter from Penn State to Tennessee. He's played under Anthony Poindexter for 2 seasons. He played for Jim Knowles last year. He knows the defense, and he came here to play that defense. So, I mean, again, he's pretty much a coach on the field you would expect in terms of the defense, and a guy that's experienced, right? He played in 29 career games at Penn State over 2 years. He started 3 games a season ago, played about 300 snaps. Dejuan Lane certainly looks the part. He made a great PBU in the scrimmage the other day. Great PBU. Tennessee's going to be just fine in terms of him and TJ Metcalf as the starters. Dylan Lewis, who was a spring emergence at safety, he's going to be the number 3 safety. And then, of course, DJ Burke's coming over from Appalachian State. Potentially could be the 4th safety. You've got Sidney Walton as well, who played in like 10 games a season ago as a true freshman. I think Sidney Walton's a guy that could see some PT as well in terms of depth. But the depth certainly does take a hit with no Edrees Farooq, and, continued thoughts and prayers for him. That stinks. I had an episode about this on Sunday, reacting to, of course, the season-ending injury that took place on Friday morning. And really, heart goes out to him. That's a tough situation. What do I want to see? What do I want to hear from Tennessee football in this last true week of fall camp? I got a couple of things. We'll talk about it next right here on Locked On Vols. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make your free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with everyday's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on those matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get a chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Sometimes it's a hitter who's been on a hot streak, right? Or it's a favorable pitching matchup. They count everything in baseball, right? You can go back and check the trends, the stats on how this player performs against a certain pitcher on the mound. Even a ballpark that tends to give up home runs. Those are always the first things I'll look for before making my Daily Dingers projection. So, are you ready to play the game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences with FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Fall camp rolls on, and I truly believe this is the last true week of fall camp because classes do start, and now you're balancing classes, schoolwork with football, as you will be the rest of the semester. That's not that big of a deal, but the first week of transition and all that, you got a lot on your plate if you're a football player. So it's not just ball anymore. It's not only ball. You got to balance schoolwork. But also, this time next week, a week from the day, Monday, it will be the mock game week, if you will. And let me explain what this is for those of you that maybe have heard me or heard someone else say this and kind of like, well, what are you talking about, right? Like, or furthermore, like, why is it important to have a mock game week? That seems silly to me. Gosh, we did this back even when I played forever ago. – Athletes are a creature of habit. Coaches are a creature of habit. you need to know what you're doing at this time every single day. That way you can kind of go about your day. Okay. You don't want to leave anything guessing or whatever and taking your mind elsewhere. Okay. So, mock game week is the week before the week before. It's 2 weeks out from kickoff. Okay. And so what you do is you're going to go into a week from the day, Monday, and you're going to do everything that you would do on that Monday, right? So Heupel included, coaches including, like Heupel will meet with the media at 12:30. Some players will come. It's typically an off day. They'll lift. Some players will come and meet with the media, and they'll watch film as well. After Heupel and all that. Practice. It'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are practice days. Okay. Thursday's that speed walkthrough. Friday's a walkthrough. And then travel or whatever. Get ready, and then of course you'll go throughout. What the weekend looks like when you have a game. That way when you get to game week that next week, you're not sitting there, okay, well, what am I doing? Where am I going? When are we practicing? Where are we going? When's film? When's my lift? Like it's structured. It's regimented, so you don't have to think about it. You just go and do. It might not seem like that big of a deal, but on game week, when game week gets here, you don't want to sit here and be guessing or whatever. That's why, as silly as it sounds, right? There's pregame warm-ups, okay? You run out there. At Carson Newman, we ran through the cross. We did all this thing. We walked under the stadium. We touched the eagle. We came out, and the student body and the cheerleaders and all that would form instead of a power tee, it'd be a cross. You run through there and all that, and you busted through the paper and all that. But that was our way from the locker room out onto the field to our home sideline. You go through and practice that so you know what to do on game day, so you don't look foolish or stupid on game day. Same with Tennessee, right? You go through and you walk, okay, at this time the quarterbacks go out, at this time the centers go out, at this time the long snappers go out, at this time the linebackers go out, at this time the cornerbacks go out, at this time the punt returners go out. Here's where you go on the field. This is what you do. Okay, ready, break, bring it together. We'll do together team and all that. Then we'll break it off. Like you practice all those things, so you're not doing it for the first time prior to the first game. Okay, it might seem silly, it might seem stupid, but it's just what it is. That's what, football players and even other sports do. It's the dress rehearsal, if you will. So a week from today is mock game week. And typically, Josh Heupel, in years past, when there's been a true quarterback competition, Hendon and Joe, Joey Aguilar last year, not just assumed you were on to the year like with Joe Milton or Nico Iamaleava, because everyone knew those were the quarterbacks. Josh Heupel's kind of made his quarterback announcements, coming out of that second fall scrimmage before mock game week. So on that Sunday around, or that Monday press conference or whatever, that's typically when that quarterback's kind of been named. And we'll see if he holds true. And there's a quarterback announcement, maybe by the time you're listening to this or watching this next week, that it will have already been announced. I don't know. Maybe we find out Monday of mock game week, so that there's no distractions heading into actual game week. Now, I have been curious with it being Furman and not Syracuse or not Virginia or, anybody else, with a pulse, if maybe you just wait to have that announcement on game week. Or I would be very, very surprised if an announcement was not made anything prior to game week. I would be surprised if you start mock game week and we don't know who the starting quarterback is. But again, that's up to Faizon Brandon Joey Aguilar. By the way, Joey, 1 for 1, 43 yards, uncorked a bomb the other day for the Jaguars in preseason work. Not Joey Aguilar, George MacIntyre. That's up to George MacIntyre, Faizon Brandon, excuse me. I've had like a tickle in my throat this entire episode. That's up to those guys. They determine when Josh Heupel, Joey Halsey can make that announcement, finalize and all that. So both those quarterbacks will play week 1, no doubt, because it's Furman, but I do think a starter will be announced before then. But here's what I want to see the final week. I want to see the response from the quarterbacks, kind of like what we talked about in segment 1. Faizon had the better day on Saturday based on everybody you speak to. George was not bad. George often was unlucky with some drops, even some snaps at points in times. Where's the response? Does George storm back and have the better scrimmage too? Joey Aguilar did not have his best scrimmage 1 this time last year, but he dominated week 2, or the week between first scrimmage and second scrimmage and took the job in that second scrimmage. Are we going to see a case like that here with George MacIntyre? Are we going to see Faizon Brandon build off what he did on Saturday and just sprint to the finish line? We'll see. I want to see the response from the quarterbacks. Also, I don't want to see any more injuries. I understand football is a contact sport. I get it. Can't avoid it. You've got to have contact. I'm just hoping and praying. that there's no more big-time injuries. Also, hoping and praying Ty Redmond continues to get back and get some more meaningful run. Ethan Davis gets back and gets some more meaningful run. Tennessee kind of gets healthy. But also on the flip side, like Deshaun Bishop, I hope he doesn't take another hit in fall camp. Doesn't need to. Doesn't need to. Would be silly in my opinion. I hope Deshaun Bishop does not take another hit in fall camp. Gosh, if you didn't have a quarterback competition going on right now, I'd love to just say, hey, Mike, hey, Braylon, let's not go over the middle and go up and, 11-on-11 try to high point those footballs. Like, I mean, you're a competitor. They're not just going to be like, okay, I got you. Like, no, like, you're a competitor. But, like, if there wasn't a quarterback competition going on right now, I'd be real intrigued to see if Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley didn't scrimmage next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you kind of want your guys to be out there to get some rapport with whoever the quarterback's going to be, or give George or Faizon the best opportunity to win the job so you're not throwing to backups. So I'm intrigued to know kind of what those wide receivers look like this week, and certainly in scrimmage number 2. Defensively, that defensive line's got to grow. I think there's some pieces there, no doubt, but if your run game was poor, if your rush defense was poor on the defense side of the football, I don't want to say all defenses is this, but the name of the game defensively is gap integrity. And it starts up front. If you're a 3-tech, okay, and you're not holding that B gap, you're getting pushed down. That means a crease is made and off to the races at points and times, especially if you have bad angles on the back end. If you're a shade, if you're a 1 technique and you're not holding down that A gap, if you're getting double teamed into the lap of the backer, okay, if your backside backer is not holding backside A gap or whatever for that cutback lane, you're in trouble. It's all about gap integrity. It's all about gap integrity. Okay, so what that tells me, if the defense had issues stopping the run, they were being forced out of their gaps. They were being moved out of their gaps. They were not holding their gaps. They were not setting the edge. They were taking poor angles. They were not playing inside and out as a linebacker or a secondary guy, meaning over pursuing and allowing cutbacks. I want to see that tighten up on the defense a little bit this week. I want to hear good things in terms of the defense this week, and I want to hear some guys stepping up. Tim Merritt at corner behind Trey Poteet as some depth at cornerback. Sidney Walton, Dylan Lewis, DJ Burks. I want to hear some depth stepping up at the safety position. Tevis Metcalf, Jamian Theodore, Zay Anderson, some other younger guys or new guys that need to be relied on if they get out there on the football field this year. So I want to hear about those things. Tight end position. Like to get Ethan Davis back and see what he can do. I don't think Dejuan Brandon had his best day at the office on Saturday, but I want to continue to hear positive things from Trent Thomas, the transfer from South Alabama, from Luka Wolf, the true freshman, right? It's a big week. It's a big week for Tennessee football because really this is kind of your last chance before you move out of this phase of fall camp. All that in here. We'll be covering it right here on Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, being a part of the show. When we come back tomorrow, we'll answer some of your questions at _Cainer, at Locked On Vols, and you can comment here on the YouTube channel. I'll put a prompt up there on the community tab trying to get soliciting for some mailbag questions, so go ahead and put those in there as well. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. We'll be back for more Tennessee football talk and fall camp for a Tuesday Locked On Vols. Until then, have a great rest of your day, everybody.